Braxcast time once again. This is the 49th episode of the Braxcast, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Really exciting, so let's not waste any time. And let's get into the biggest announcement for the Rippaverse this week. It is the announcement of the Great War of Separation, beginning pre-orders on the 29th of January at 6 a.m. Central, that's 7 a.m. Eastern. That's typically the time they like to launch it, early in the morning for the United States. Although the first four campaigns, that being ISOM 1 and 2, Alpha Core, and Yaira, all launched on Mondays, and Mondays was typically the day that they would like to drop stuff, but now they're really playing crazy. Yaira number 2 was dropped on a Thursday. The 29th of January, when Great War of Separation is dropping, is a Wednesday, so they're just releasing stuff willy-nilly whenever they feel like it. 2 collections for books launching in 1 month is absolutely insane. So this release schedule for the Rippaverse is really speeding up. The Rippaveal showed a lot, and they're really following through on actually releasing these pre-order collections in a timely manner. Then, of course, fulfilling them within, probably about 6 weeks. Although this book, Great War Separation, will not have any CGC slabs, the Signature Series slabs associated with it. So it's probably going to have a quicker turnaround time than Yaira 2 that does. But this is really exciting. Of course, I've said before with the Rippaveal, the fact that this series is happening is going to give us a lot of insight into the lore of the Rippaverse, how the landscape of the United States looks in the Rippaverse after this event. So there's going to be a lot of really exciting stuff for the world of the Rippaverse, and of course with Brian Solari being involved in the Great War of Separation as much as he is also going to give us some really good backstory for Solari, and by extension the establishment of Alpha Core. So I'm sure we'll find out a little bit more on the 29th when we get the log line, some preview pages, and of course I will be covering all of that on the 50th episode of the Braxcast. So be sure to subscribe if you have not already, and stay tuned for that. So massively exciting news. Definitely the biggest thing to come out of the Rippaverse this week. And now I want to talk about something with the Rippaverse, I guess not the comic book side, but more or less just the general company. Gothix is joining the Rippaverse crew. This was announced on last Saturday, just as I was rendering the 48th episode of the Rippaverse. This got announced, so I'm including it in this episode. But this is a bit of old news. So Gothix is a content creator, video game streamer. Not very familiar with her content. I've watched a little bit of what she's put out for the Rippaverse so far, but she is heading off as the main spokesperson for the Rippaverse. So she's going to be the camera presence, the on-screen presence, replacing Eric, because he's got a lot of hats to wear for the company. So his time is better spent writing, being editor-in-chief, facilitating the business deals that come with a multi-million-dollar comic book company such as the Rippaverse. And I think Gothix is going to be a good choice. She has experience with creating content. She knows what she's doing in terms of presenting stuff. And that's really all you have to do if you're going to be the presenter of anything, is that you know how to stand behind a camera and make yourself look presentable, and make the script that you read come out clearly and be entertaining for the viewer. So I think this is a fantastic thing, especially if it gives Eric more time, and the community definitely seems to be warming up to Gothix as she takes on the role of being the main on-screen presenter for the Rippaverse's really crazy release schedule, as we just got into, with Great War Separation being announced and releasing the same month as the Yaira number 2 pre-order collection. But I want to talk about the Blood Roof collection. Of course, that finished its pre-order collection on the 20th of January. So the pre-order collection is done. So those limited items, you aren't going to be able to get them anymore. Of course, that mass print cover D is still going to be available. There might be some stuff straggling in the store, so check that out. But that's liable to go out of sale really soon. And this or I should say pre-order collection was really successful. $736,000 in sales, over 13,300 books sold for a niche, that being a horror comic. So comics are a niche, and horror is a niche within that niche, and this was a massively successful showing. Of course, you've got a lot of stuff teasing here. You've got that Christian imagery. You've got this guy that seems like he's going to be the main antagonist for Bloodroof. Of course, you've got her Shadow Wolf. You've got the Shadow Dragon that she's seen riding in Item number 2. So this book is really short to getting into our hands. All that they're waiting for are those signature series slabs. Those should be coming back to the warehouse in February, and fulfillment should begin sometime that month, which is all within the Q1 2025 fulfillment date that was given when the collection launched in October on Halloween. So they're definitely on track to getting that when they said that they will. And I am very excited for this book. I said there's a lot of supernatural stuff in the Rippaverse that we do not know much about, and Bloodroof number 1 is going to undo that veil that currently exists with the mystical and the supernatural aspects of the Rippaverse, and of course the Saskas being the lore masters and writers of Yara number 1, which is still so far my favorite book of the Rippaverse, means that I am really looking forward to this, especially given the fact that this is right up their alley, since they cut their teeth in terms of writing and being creatives with horror films, and this is a horror comic book. It's definitely a match made in heaven for them. So really excited for Bloodroof. Can't wait to read and review it in February. But we've got another thing. This is going to be the last bit of news. This is the meet and greet schedule for MegaCon. So I did mention them being at MegaCon again this year, booth 5125. And this is the schedule. So it's going to be Drunk Free PO, Disparu, and Epic Mike on Thursday, the 6th of February. You're going to have the Saskas, Geeks and Gamers, signing for Achromatic Chronicles, Bro Science, Eric July, and the Saska Sisters on Friday, February 7th. The Saska Sisters again, return of the fandom panel, and meet the panelists for Geeks and Gamers, Rippaverse, Nerdrotic, and the Critical Drinker on Saturday, the 8th of February, and the Saska Sisters again on Sunday, February 9th, along with Critical Drinker and the Saska Sisters. These times are subject to change. I do believe that you're going to have Star Wars Fury there. I'm sure it will be among that, but these times are subject to change. I'm sure there will be more included in this, but this is the basic meet and greet schedule for the Rippaverse. And if I can't zoom in a little bit just to show that off to all you guys, want to go zoom back out for that. So if you're going to be at MegaCon, this MegaCon, that is the release schedule. Hopefully you guys got a good look at that. Heard it. I won't be at MegaCon, so the exciting thing for MegaCon for me is not necessarily going and meeting, even though I would love to do that, just not in the schedule for February. I can't fit that into my schedule for February, I should say. But the really exciting thing for me and all the fans who aren't going to MegaCon is what are they going to announce at MegaCon? Because last MegaCon, MegaCon 24, they announced the Horseman. Of course, that was a massive success. Horseman welcomes Floor Sparks show, so that they greenlit that for an ongoing series, which the first issue should be coming out this year. So what next? What are they going to announce next at MegaCon? And of course, they're liable to just drop a collection at MegaCon because they seem to have just no holds bars on releasing collections. They've got a lot of stuff in the pipeline. They just want to get it out, and I absolutely love that. But like I said, that is all of the news for the Rippaverse. So if you're just here for the news and the announcements, that is the end of it. But I would like for you to stay and watch this whole video because we've got the Art of Will Conrad to dive into. So this book began fulfillment, I think, in the last week. I got it on Wednesday, and we are going to go through every page of this book, read the commentary, look at the very fantastic art. Now, of course, the cover for this is the art for the month of March in the Rippaverse 2025 calendar. And of course, you've got this, it's a nice foil. It's stapled, so if you hold it like that, the the cover kind of pops. That's just the nature of it being stapled and not a perfect bind, but it does feel high quality, does feel very nice. But we're going to get into the back matter here. So Gooding, the polymath artist Will Conrad, is an artist renowned for his balanced and versatile skill set in the comic book industry with expertise in penciling, inking, and cover art. He has contributed to some of Dark Horse's biggest titles. In 2007, he illustrated the first issue of Who Wants to Be a Superhero, adding another milestone to his impressive career. Conrad began his comics journey as an inker, notably working on a long run of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Over time, he honed his craft as a penciler, becoming a sought-after artist for DC and Marvel. His portfolio boasts fan-favorite titles including Black Panther, Dark Avengers, Wolverine, X-Men, Batman, Justice League, Superman, The Flash, Nightwing, and more. Now residing in Belo Horizonte, Brazil, Conrad lives with his wife Bella and their 2 daughters, continually pushing the boundaries of his artistic craft. What a resume. And this is going to be a fantastic thing to get into. Now, of course, specifically in the Rippaverse, he's mentioned as Gooding, the polymath artist, but I also want to give a shout out to Will Conrad being the artist for all of the Dokkumon cards. I've reviewed the first 2 decks, and of course the third deck will be fulfilling with Bloodroof. I will be reviewing those as well. So search for those episodes of Braxcast where I break down all the Dokkumon cards. You get to see his fantastic art in the Dokkumon cards. So that's just another thing. So he's done that. He's done a bunch of covers for the Rippaverse, very notably Yaira #2 cover C, I believe, is the work of Will Conrad. Absolutely fantastic stuff. But without further ado, we are going to get into the art of Will Conrad. So we've got this first image here. This is a shot of Gooding holding an orb. So the idea behind this art is the orb emits color into an otherwise black and white world. I use gray tones to convey the black and white environment and the light to add the colors later. So I think all the commentary is done by Will Conrad himself, which is very interesting. So we're going to show off this piece of art. I believe this is a poster for Alpha Core #1. It does look absolutely fantastic. So I don't want to zoom in too much because then you won't be able to see all of it. But if I too zoomed out, you can't see the details, but I'll try and do my best to show off everything. But the commentary for this was my second Alpha Core piece, and being more comfortable with the characters, I had the freedom to go wild on the action scene and show how awesome the team really is. This piece was used as a poster for the campaign. I hope you bought one. I did not buy one, or I might have gotten the I1 and all, so I might have it sitting in my tubes of posters in my room. If I do, I'll definitely be showing this off when I get a proper studio set up. But that is one day in the future. But we're going to show off this piece of art. Now, when I reviewed Gooding the Polymath, you should check out that review on Velvet Room Publishing, by the way. This is a piece of art that I really shouted out as showing, like, this is really where the art for Gooding the Polymath pops and just shows just how skilled of an artist Will Conrad is. So his commentary for Will Conrad on this is, I've always loved drawing military and army stuff, and I had a lot of fun with the sequence in order to make the scene flow. I made the figures interfere with the next panel and use a lot of lines to give texture to the fierce blizzard. Yeah, and you see how, you've got that, like, the hand going there. You've got the panels overlaid with each other, and you just got this enormous amount of detail in the figures in the background, even in the little plane, or I'd say even the plane in the background there. So everything looks on point, very visually coherent. Again, such a testament to the skill of Will Conrad. And of course, he's got that very storied resume in the comic book industry, so that is of no surprise. And then again, this is another page. I think it's like directly after that last scene that we saw in Gooding the Polymath. On this page, it was crucial for me to show the difference between the outside weather and the cold cleanliness of the lab interior, as well as the precision of the soldiers and the fear of the scientists. And I think he captures that, all of that, absolutely fantastically. So you can see that here. This is, his pencil and ink work. It looks absolutely wonderful. we're getting into another military sequence. One of the things I love about this page is the gesture details and the facial expressions, some of the elements I strive always present in my work. Now, of course, this is Will Conrad's commentary. So when I'm speaking when I'm reading this in the first person, this is not my artwork. This is Will Conrad and his commentary on it. But I'm sure you can tell that. Absolutely fantastic stuff. I think this military scene, spoilers for Gooding, this is where Splatterpuss gets his powers. Ron Hodges becomes Splatterpuss in this scene. Absolutely fantastically done. Mike Barron wrote a great script for Gooding, and Will Conrad really brought it to life, as you are seeing in this fantastic art book. So now we're heading on to the next 2 pages. So the 2 soldiers racing, they get to the transport, facing a merciless blizzard on their way. Lots of texture and lines here to convey the harshness of the environment. You can definitely see all of that detail brought out in the blizzard. You got those bits of snow, like little dots there, and then of course all those lines really bring it together and make it feel like it's flowing snow. And of course the figures are just rendered so well here. That's definitely a thing I would say with Gooding, is that everything is very visually coherent and the figures have a lot of fidelity to them. So this sequence to me shows how in sync Gina and Kato are, how athletic she is, and how much they love each other. Just look at Gina's stare in the last panel. I think he's talking about this. If you can see it here, that is what Will Conrad is referring to, where you got Gooding standing there and she's just looking very longingly at him. That's a very nice, that's relationship goals there, to say what the kids say these days. But you've got the detail here and how, hitting the balls, the impact line, the impact lines, and the line showing the ball's trajectory. It just helps give that nice sense of momentum. This is what a lot of people in comics will complain about, is that if the art feels too static, that is definitely taking you out of the reading experience. And this has a very good line between showing motion and not looking too cluttered or confusing. So Will Conrad, again, fantastic artist. But we are moving on to the next page. So another page showing the deep romance between the 2 characters. I really enjoy the interactions of these 2 throughout the book. Now, of course, this is, the proposal of Kato Kato to Gina. Again, you see the ring there. You see them hugging each other. And I think the lettering, the waiter says, like, would you like to see the specials? It's a very sweet moment, and it's got like that little bit of humor injected into it. It's a bit quickly paced given the page count that Mike Barron had to work with, but what is there is shown really well, and a big part of this is the fantastic skill that Will Conrad has, and of course the passion, because he genuinely liked drawing this book. But we are moving on to the next page. When working on Gooding, I made sure to put a lot of effort into the vehicles and the technology. Also, all the emotions were very important to me. I tried to show that in every panel. I definitely think this is a good show of that. You've got, I believe this is the boss of Madwire. I think it's either Madwire or Mindwire. I can never get that straight, as a company that Gooding was working for initially. Of course, you've got Gooding's little Gooding's stern face in the panel there. I think this is definitely a really good scene. There's a lot of detail in the background, the foregrounds, a lot of the technology looks fantastic. So we're moving on to the next page. So this page right here. One of the things I like to do is draw regular people in day-to-day situations, and I had my hands full here. I also had a chance to play with the special effects a bit, SFX. So you see, those boom, 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 boom. I forget exactly what it was. Was it the bass wire? But anyway, or bass jammer, I believe, is this bit of technology that Gooding invents that prevents, like stereos from working. And that's, something that I believe he starts selling to people. And this is what builds, the Gooding Company enterprise. If you see Gooding Company right there, this is the next page of artwork. We're getting right into it. In this page, I had the chance to show a bit of Gooding headquarters, and also to show the first concept for his body armor that would be perfected in another page later in the book. And again, you see all of the detail in the cars. You see this is like an Osprey looking helicopter here, and of course you've got the head, you've got the armor there, you've got him, shooting himself, and then, of course, it being shown to be completely bulletproof. And in here, you might not be able to see it, but you see like a little bit of scuff marks from the impact of the bullet. Absolutely fantastic. Again, this just shows the enormous skill that Will Conrad has in bringing these pages to life. So this is the next page here. We're getting right into it. On the first panel, I'm making references to those action mangas with lots of line effects and energy. I like the super over-the-top feeling of this panel, contrasting with the tone of the rest of the page. And you see absolutely what he's talking about there and those lines in the background. Isom number 1 in that fight with Santuan and Isom wasn't necessarily the lines, but it had that similar use of the background to emphasize the action between those two characters. Fantastic stuff. And of course, this is like a dumb action movie that was made based off of the life of Gooding. I'd say this is probably like the most undeserved part of Gooding, and this was like in here just, it was a cool thing to draw. Definitely like it. And it definitely really builds Gooding up as a Tony Stark character, but with how shortly paced Gooding the Polymath was, or how short of a script that was, it definitely makes it feel like it happened a little bit too quickly. And if this was like a 90-page book instead of like a 76-page book, could have developed that a little bit better. But Mike Baron did a really good job for the length of the script that he wrote, and with us knowing that more Gooding is on the way, hopefully his character gets developed and expanded even more than it already has been in his appearances in the Rippaverse. But that's enough commentary on the story. We're going to talk about the art. And this is the next page we're talking about. Commentary from Will Conrad is here. We can see the second version of Kato's body armor. It's sleeker and more powerful, and I had a lot of fun with the visual effects. And I think talking about these visual effects here, you got like these marks in the background, and you've got a lot of stuff in the background of this panel that looks very detailed. So just giving that very like high-tech Tony Stark feel, and stuff like this, stuff like that as well. And all the figures are drawn very well. You see how, the hoodie has those lines to indicate those natural folds that people have when they wear cloth. It's little stuff like that that elevates art from being okay to fantastic. And Will Conrad has that in droves. So we're moving on to the next page here. This is a scene with Splatterpuss. Literally killing somebody. I had a blast working on how Splatterpuss evolved into a serial killer and how cold and cruel he can be. To me, this page encompasses all that this villain is about. 100% agree. This is Splatterpuss killing one of Gooding's confidants and it being witnessed by a child. Very interesting stuff. This is the big confrontation scene where the villain and hero face off, and I tried to show their imposing personalities on every panel. Definitely think that Will Conrad did a great job in this fight scene. There's a lot of momentum here. You see those lines showing that the items being thrown, and again, you see just how his blazer wraps around him, his pants wraps around him. There's a lot of detail that is rendered in every single panel in terms of momentum. And again, you see those same scuff marks on Splatterpuss's armor that shows the impact of the bullets, and it just makes everything feel more real and immersive. And of course, these hands here are drawn really, really well. There's a lot of detail here. So hands are probably the most difficult part of anatomy to draw. That's my experience with when artists complain about drawing stuff. They say hands are the hardest to draw, and these are fantastically rendered. Will Conrad is a master artist, and I hope he keeps working with the Rippaverse, doing covers, interior, posters, what have you. Just keep him on the payroll, Eric. This is a fantastic scene. This is, of course, the continuation of that final fight scene. Will Conrad's commentary on it. To me, it was fitting that they fight on stage in a theater. Gooding is as resourceful and brave as Splatterpuss is cruel and cold. Although Kato is in a tux, I made sure to show a hint of his body armor underneath, and I think if you can see, I'm not sure if you can see there, but just like very subtly, you can see that. So it's a little bit hard for me to show the entire page and be able to zoom in on the specific parts with the way my camera is set up, but hopefully you can see a pretty good impression of just how clean these pencils and inks are, because like I said, I think I keep saying Will Conrad is a master artist, and this is definitely shown in every single page that he's doing here. But we're moving on to the next page. Said, I love the conclusion of this fight sequence and how Kato had already calculated the outcome and prepared for it, highlighting his brilliant intellect. Of course, throwing the knife, it being gaseous, and then tranking him, saving the day, and having him locked away in prison. So this is, I believe, cover B. And this is the cover that I use. This is actually my reading copy for Gooding. Absolutely love this cover. It's got that movie poster feel. Of course, you got Splatterpuss in the background. You got the hand in the foreground, and then you've got all of these characters centered around a pretty epic looking Gooding. You've got Gina there. I believe you've got I think that's his partner when he gets recruited. I forget for that PMC company. Those details are kind of escaping me at the moment, but again, this is an absolutely fantastic piece of art. I think probably my favorite cover for Gooding is this. That's why I chose this, my reading copy, but this is his commentary, as in this is Will Conrad's commentary. This is my version of the cover for Gooding. I took a cinematic approach and showed some of the more important characters, as well as conveyed the menace of the main villain. I think he did that fantastically. Splatterpuss has definitely got a very menacing and intimidating feeling as he absolutely dominates his cover. And even with him dominating the cover, you still have all of these little details and the buildings and all of the other figures that are rendered on this. So it's fantastic work. But I think that is the end of all the Gooding art. So we're getting into Horseman. So there's nothing like a badass hero to make for a badass cover. Horseman is a great character to draw, and here I wanted to show him towering over a beaten thug in one of the city's back alleys. This is an absolutely fantastic piece of artwork. Of course, you've even got like the birds in the background that just have so much detail to them. Like the bricks even look like uneven in how they're drawn. You've got like the paper flying around. So there's just like this perfect mix of it being a really good still shot, along with showing enough motion to make it feel like a very immersive piece of artwork. And of course, it all centers on Horseman, and he's looking as like big, intimidating, and again, badass, to use Will Conrad's word, as possible. So this is a fantastic piece of artwork, and really exemplifies the motif of the Horseman that Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett really built the character on. But we're getting into Will Conrad's cover for Horseman. I believe this was cover C, if I'm not mistaken. But when working on the layouts for this cover, I wanted to show the Horseman dealing with wave after wave of bad guys and forming a pile of fallen thugs like those old barbarian scenes. This is absolutely fantastic. It does remind me of something like Doom, like that original Doom where Doom guy is just like shooting the shotgun in the hordes of demons. I think that's definitely like the same style he was going for, and just all of the bullets flying, the blood spattering, the gun in the background. It just gives this sense of momentum to this piece that really focuses on just showing off how badass Horseman is and how action-packed his book is in Horseman Welcome to Forest Park, which I have reviewed, is an absolutely fantastic book. So we're moving on to this piece of art. I had so much fun doing this piece for Eric. I love the chaotic nature of the finished art and how many things are happening at the same time here. Certainly is a lot going on in this piece. Now, of course, this is promotional artwork for Rip in the Silverback. So you have that's Heels versus Babyface, and Eric July. They do a podcast every week on Wednesdays going over pop culture and various stuff. That's basically Eric's only consistent live streaming presence at this point. I think FCS is on permanent hiatus, and Rippin' the Silverback is basically his only weekly show that he's doing because he's just got so much other stuff going along. But he still has a bit of a presence on YouTube with Rippin' the Silverback and doing some video essays from time to time. And I think that's a pretty good format, maintaining that. Of course, I was a fan of Eric when he was doing For Our Canon's Sake 5 times a week. And while I do miss that, I certainly love being a fan of the Rippaverse. So I think the change in his content schedule is very much justified. But this is a fantastic piece of artwork and definitely really makes Rip and the Silverback feel like a very coherent experience. But we're getting into some Yaira artwork. So I always loved drawing beautiful women, and Yaira is as beautiful and powerful as they get. On this piece, I had the opportunity to show off a lot of her power. Now, I believe this is Yaira fighting off against Yanessa, if I'm getting that correctly. This does appear to be Yanessa. She's got, this like Dragon Ball inspired armor, especially with the way the armor tapers off at her hips. Looks absolutely fantastic. You've got the long flowing hair of both of these characters. You've got her ice powers. I think you've got her ice powers going on as well. There's just a lot of detail rendered in this. And of course, I absolutely love Yaira's costume, especially the way it tapers off at her hips. Absolutely fantastic. But I've said that so many times that I love Yaira's costume. I love everything about Yaira. Now, this is this is a cover for Yaira. I don't think this was cover A. I believe this was cover B. I could be wrong on that. I was delighted when I saw the design of the monster I used in this cover and immediately wanted to make something weird and creepy for this piece. It took a lot of time making all of the little insects. Now, of course, this is Magus Numite, and of course, he's talking about all of these little insects behind Magus Numite. I believe that's part of his powers of being able to summon insects, and of course he can do all sorts of things being a dark magician. And of course, Magus Numite had met his end in Yaira number 1, but that is up for question given the way they are marketing Yaira number 2. But that's going to be very exciting to get Yaira number 2 and see just how Magus Numite survived the events of Yaira number 1. But we're going to get into the last bit of artwork. This is a piece on Yaira, and in fact this was the first art I did for Yaira as in Will Conrad. As it usually goes with me, I take a little time to get used to the character until I feel more comfortable drawing them, and I have to say this is fantastic art. I don't know what he's saying getting comfortable, because even the detail in her shoe, like it bending a little bit, all of this momentum, everything here looks absolutely fantastic. You could have had this as a poster. You could have had this as a cover for Yaira, and no one would have batted an eye. No one would have thought this was an amateurish attempt at rendering Yaira for the first time in the mind of the artist, right? But this is an absolutely fantastic piece of artwork, and the fact that he can just draw this as his first time drawing a character is really indicative of the masterful skill of Will Conrad, and definitely why he was justified in having his own art book. So this is a fantastic art book to review. Fantastic artist in Will Conrad. Hope he keeps working at the Rippaverse for a long time. So the next art book that is coming out will be The Art of Deborah Carita. That, of course, launched with the second Yaira book. So I will definitely be reviewing that as well. But hopefully you enjoyed The Art of Will Conrad, going through the art as best as I can, presented with the way my camera's set up. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I believe Art of Will Conrad is something that's still available on the Rippaverse store, so be sure to check that out if you want that in your hands and to flip and read through it, which I think is the best way to read any book. But I do not have anything else for you guys, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of the Braxcast. Joker is out. Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.